Welcome back. We are concluding our very interesting conversation with a man who has been deeply studying the problem of an unaccountable, unelected, and rogue administrative state. In this case, evidenced by what the State Department has been doing in a country in which he has resided for now 5 decades, Guatemala. His name is Stephen Hecht, and it's been a fascinating tale about what these bureaucrats, foreign service officers, and others have been doing to undermine a friendly government, alienate it from the United States, and, if they can, turn it over to communists. We've been talking about this in the last block about how it's really a microcosm of a larger problem. And what I wanted to turn to with Stephen Hecht now is, given all this is going on, what can we do about it? What is the remedy to this kind of behavior by the permanent bureaucracy?
I think that we are in the position of having to depend on the House Republicans in the new Congress. Their very slim majority is they can't use it for legislation because it's too difficult, but they do have control of the agenda. They control the committees, the agenda, the investigations, hearings. I think their job is to educate the public on Biden regime totalitarianism and corruption and the permanent bureaucracies, crimes and corruption. We need the federal bureaucracy to be accountable to Congress and to the executive branch of which it's a part. And it is no longer. And so we can't expect to have a government elected by the people if it's a government that puts America first and is doing proper things and helping the country. It can't possibly have a bureaucracy that's fighting it. That bureaucracy needs to conform to the will of the people and the structure of the Constitution. And if that doesn't happen, we are going to lose our liberty.
Yeah. Well, and for that matter, add to that list of requirements conforming with the law. And I
Yes.
think that's pretty clear from these Twitter revelations that we've seen, as I said earlier, the Department of Justice, the FBI most especially, engaging in behavior that is not consistent with the law of the United States, notably the First Amendment of the Constitution. So hearings would seem to be the bare minimum. More sweeping investigations, perhaps as well. Stephen Hecht, looking at, as just an example, this problem in Guatemala. What specifically can the U.S. government now do to change the direction from what Todd Robinson and others have been pushing for a decade now?
Well, that's not going to happen unless we have a government that puts America first. And I'm not I'm not talking about Donald Trump. That's neither here nor there. I'm not interested in people. I'm interested in policies. And in terms of policy of putting America first, uh, that can't happen with this type of federal bureaucracy. We're going to have to find a way. And I'm not sure what that way is, but we're going to have to find a way to make it responsive. And hopefully, we're going to get people in office who support the Constitution. And we don't have that today. Our leadership, the Biden regime, is working against our Constitution. And that is unfortunate. And that's the key issue.
Well, if it were just unfortunate, it would be one thing.
Yes.
It's really
Worse than that.
harmful to our national interest, and it's going to get, I think, this country further alienated from others that are of a mind with it and that have, I think, a shared sense of values about, democracy for one thing, and about the idea that we're going to have freedom triumphing rather than Marxism. And that's the root of the problem. I guess one other thing that Congress can do, Steve, and I not saying that this is necessarily going to happen, but it should seem to me to be on the table, is to stop the funding that is financing these kinds of simply um, unacceptable policies and the people perpetrating them.
That's the only option that Congress has. I mean, they can investigate, they can hold hearings, and the Biden regime and the federal bureaucrats don't care anything about that. But if their money gets held up, that's a whole different story. So that's the leverage that Congress has, and that's certainly what Congress should be looking at to try to influence the bureaucracy to do what it's supposed to do and not do what it's not supposed to do.
This is especially true, of course, in the case of Guatemala, as we've been discussing for this full hour. And it's a very helpful, as I say, means of examining both what's been going on there, outrageous as it is, but also getting a sense of the broader problem that you've pointed to. And I hope that what we're going to see, Steve, is that this will perhaps in part as a result of the revelations coming out of Elon Musk's files in Twitter, partly perhaps because of what we've learned in the course of the recent elections, partly in we'll see this as a result of a response to popular anger at what seems to be, well, an increasing degree of inconsistency, shall we say, between their values and the needs of our country and what are being advanced by the federal government, most especially, and the people in charge of much of its agencies. So I want to thank you, Stephen Hecht, for taking the time to really work through this with us. I think you've put your finger on a national crisis. And I hope that what we take away from the microcosmic examination that you've been so close to and helpful in illuminating of Guatemala, the kinds of both urgency and direction in terms of corrective action. We'll let you go. Thank you, sir. Come back to us, if you would, with updates. I hope the rest of you will join us again next time for more of Securing America, and that you feel better equipped to help us in protecting the country we love, and that you will now go forth and multiply.